All right, my friends, welcome to another, yet another Juve therapy session this Friday. It's every Friday. So, yes, please subscribe and smash a like on this video. We have a very special double feature for you, like a football match, 2 times 45. And the first half will be with my good friend Mason. This time, however, we won't be talking so much about his blog or about his great takes about Juve, but this guy right here has been employed by Juve themselves. So he now works for Juventus Academy Boston, which is freaking awesome, Mason. I must congratulate you that once again. And of course, guys, please shout out to Mason, everyone. Say hi to Mason. And first of all, I will try to do something very cool, guys, but I think there will be some lag. But I will try to show you a video of what he is working with these days. Yeah, there was no lag. I love this. I love this intro, man. I'm so pumped. If I have a kid in Boston, I'll just throw him into your arms, because this man, this is absolutely wonderful. Please, first of all, Mason, let me explain to everybody, how did you start, how this academy started, the history of it. Let's start off with that. Yes.
Yeah, so I started about a month ago. I linked up with the president of the academy, Bill Altieri. He's a huge Juventino. I mean, like, the guy bleeds, black and white. And so we were talking about games and everything, and then I have a background in writing, so we kind of linked on that. And so he first started the academy in 2018. It's part of a larger program that Juve is doing around the world. I think there's over 60 academies. We have some in New York, DC, Miami, Houston. There's some in Mexico, Colombia, I believe Honduras, London. There's an academy. So they're kind of all over. Each one is sort of independently run, but through the guidelines of Juve, and we're all in contact with each other, and it's all a great relationship. But so we operate independently of the academy in Houston, for example, but we both work very closely with Juve. And so how it first started was they came to New England, and they wanted to do some summer camps. So they got in touch with our president, Bill, and they ran some summer camps. They went well. And then they eventually decided that they would put up a permanent foothold here. So it's a year-round academy.
And as you can see, there we have both, ladies, girls, and boys/men, which is also absolutely great. And please, if there are anybody out there who thinks, so, you know what, I want to start an academy in my neighborhood, how to reach out and how to basically start off with the whole thing. Can you explain a little bit about the process of how to create an academy?
Oh yeah, it's a little so Juve kind of reaches out usually to people. They eye areas that there's like a really keen interest in soccer, football, and they begin to work in those areas. People in the New England area who obviously want to be part of the Juventus Academy Boston can contact us. But Juve has their eyes kind of everywhere in the world right now, and they're looking for places to develop. And so if you have a strong soccer culture and there's not a lot of academies in your area, it's entirely possible Juventus will be there in the next 5-10 years.
Wow. Yes, guys, if you have any questions, just let us know in the chat as well. But we have a lot of topics to cover as well. So yes, the history, and how old is this academy now?
So the academy is 3 years old. We started in 2018, so we're pretty brand new.
Yeah. All right. I wish you luck. I wish you luck for the future. And Yeah, it's great fun to watch this stuff develop. Basics of the academy, Mason. What I'm not so very familiar with the US regions and all that, but which regions do you serve and your structure, and also the programs, and of course you have probably some different levels within the academy as well.
Yeah, so our primary containment area is Massachusetts and Rhode Island. Rhode Island's the smallest state in the country, so we're kind of linked up with them. And so we operate out of Taunton, Mass, which is like southeast near the coast. But we reach all the way into Massachusetts and Rhode Island. We have, I believe, over 60 teams right now, around
Wow.
1,700 players,
Oh,
over 55 coaches. Yeah, it's a massive operation. I mean, the area we serve is a lot. Our primary containment area has over 1 million people in it. So it's a lot of folks who are very hungry for soccer. It's the most popular youth sport in America right now, and I believe like for under 10-year-olds, it's the most watched sport as well. So there's a really big appetite right now. Our structure, we have so our youngest are kindergarten aged. I'm not sure the exact age. I think that's 4 or 5. Those are our pre-academy players. So we have like introduction programs, which are free. We have one called Juve Futures, where we, you work with the kids and you get them comfortable on the ball. We introduce them to the European style of play, train, play. So it's really about, in the first stage, it's about just getting them comfortable in possession and getting their feet on the ball. And then we step up to our junior academy, which practices once a week. So that's the youngest players in our actual academy. And then into our youth academy, we have a 7v7 side, a 9v9 side, and an 11v11. So at that point, we introduce advanced curriculum, the pillars of Juve, nutritional information. We work with the players, the older players, to make sure they're healthy, and injury prevention. And then at our top level, we have our EDS squads, which are elite development squads. Those are our most elite players, and they play on a 9v9 and 11v11. So the EDS is sort of the cream of the crop, and that's all throughout Massachusetts. We have an EDS North and an EDS South.
Wow. We spoke a little bit before the stream started, and you mentioned there is some possibility, or there are some promising talents coming through the ranks, which may or may not, but that may be possible that we see them at some point in the future in Italy.
Yeah, I mean, that's our goal is to, I think this is kind of uncommon for a US academy, but our goal is to send our best players to Europe and the MLS. So we take our top tier players, we're prepping them for European play and domestic play, professional level. And then, we also work with other players to go to college level. So we really prep our players and tell them, what our goals for them and what their goals should be, and we watch them develop and kind of work with them very closely. But yeah, I mean, our goal is to be a legit academy and send our best players to Europe and all over the world and MLS, and we want to be the best development academy in the country.
Well, you're doing a pretty good job so far. Absolutely. But I can't help but notice, Mason, but if I'm just highlighting this image right here, the guy in the background there, the one with the mask behind the little kid who has the ball, he strongly resembles a certain Edin Pjanic, doesn't he? He looks like one. Man, maybe this is Edin Pjanic trial run.
These pictures, I think, are from about a week ago. We had I believe this is from our Juve Futures, which is a free program for some of our youngsters. We have a dedicated visual marketing person, Diego. He's the one who made that great video, and he goes out and takes pictures. And so we have a lot of great, footage of the players and everything. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. You can send my regards to him. He's done a stellar job.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And look at this guy. I mean, he looks like a junior Chiellini. He just I'm gonna get you, man. You don't take the ball from me. And then you have the other Demiral at the back there with the blue bandana there, coming in with the sliding. I love this. And how old are these guys?
So I think these are our youngest. So these are probably younger than 10, I imagine. We have people all the way from 5, 6 to up to 18 and 19 are our oldest players. So pretty big age group, a lot of kids. Yeah, like I said, I think 1,700. So we have a a large group of kids.
Look at determination in his eyes. I love this. I love this, and the fact that this is well, so down the line. I mean, this is all the way down to under 10s. This is so cool. This is very, very. He looks like De Ligt. Yeah, yeah. Well, mon amour. Maybe this is the future De Ligt. That'll be awesome, man. And you can come back to this video 5, 7 years later, man, and watch this one to develop. I love this. I love this. It's beauty, beauty. All right, moving on to the next one, and this is probably very interesting for me, especially because because I feel that since you are based in Boston, I kind of feel that you are in Boston and Juve is in Turin, Italy. So there is not so much communication. It's time differences, and you just get the script and you follow that script and that's it. But I kind of feel that's not the thing. I think you told me before that you have actually a good relationship with Juve all the way in Torino. Is that true?
Oh yeah, I mean the time difference doesn't stop us. We have coaches from Turin come at minimum 65 days a year. This year with COVID, it's kind of been difficult, but no, Juventus is very, very hands-on. So they have coaches here for 2 to 3 weeks at a time. We work so like when a new coach takes the first team, our whole coaching structure is changed. We coach directly their curriculum. They come over here. They have workshops with our coaches, classroom sessions, on-field sessions. They're incredibly comprehensive about the exact methodology. I mean, they're particular enough down to the point where they dictate how much we talk to our players and what amount of physical contact we use. I mean, everything. It's very, very specific. They obviously want great quality and they want to help us. And we have amazing coaches, but we're very into the idea of coaching development to bring the most authentic experience possible. So we're always continuing to train our coaches and continuing to work with Juve in the most updated methods possible. We have trips to Italy as well. There's a thing called the Juve Academy World Cup. So every June, they gather some of the academies and they go to Turin and they play. And the final is at Juve Stadium, which is incredible. So we actually had a trip planned for, I think it was March, to go see Juve play Lazio, and so some kids were going to go, and then it ended up getting canceled due to COVID, unfortunately. But they definitely want to have us over there as often as possible, and they keep a close eye on us. They watch videos of our players too,
Wow. But would you say that so basically what you're saying is that whatever Pirlo coaches De Ligt, Cristiano, and the rest, the same curriculum is being applied to your academy?
Yeah, well, right now it's kind of tough with COVID. We've had some setbacks and the ability for them to come out here. But yeah, so the general sense is that they have these 5 pillars that they're very big on that we train in. So the emphasis is on style of play, technical ability, tactical ability, mental factor, and social factor. So those are the very cornerstone pillars that we work off of, and they outline very specific instructions on, for example, social factor. We're very keen on developing players who are very brave and very individually able to take responsibility, but also able to understand the larger team aspect. So certain things like that, they're very specific on, because we're not just operating with their name. We're operating under their methodology as well, and it's very detailed.
There is a question from Anish there. I don't know if you can answer this one, but I'll highlight it. Is there any chance to develop a Juve Academy in India? Yeah, for sure. There are a lot of people in India. But do you know of anything? Is there a talk of it? Do you think expanding to that part of the world?
Oh, I'm not filled in on that necessarily, but I know that Juventus is really aware of the growing market in Southeast Asia and the Indian subcontinent. So I imagine, I'm surprised that there isn't already an academy in India. I'm sure eventually there will be.
Yeah. Yeah, I really hope so. If there isn't, well, Anish, you'd be the first to. We'll call Nedved later and say
Yeah.
and tell him that please contact Anish for getting this sorted out. And also another question from Pierre. By the way, guys, thank you so much for joining this one. It's great to have you all on board. Are academies like this common across the states? I think you mentioned it already, but you can for sure repeat it.
Oh, so yeah, Juventus has academies across the state. They have one in Texas, no, two in Texas, I think. One in Miami, I think two in California, and one in, I believe, St. Louis. But academies like this in general, there is a youth system in the United States that's pretty big. We definitely differ a lot from the traditional. I don't know much about the system of European academies, but in America we have a pay-to-play model. So, which is very unfortunate, and we're very committed to kind of changing that. We're set up to kind of redefine that.
What do you mean? What do you mean by pay and play?
There's just a traditional system of just kind of like academies will set up and just kind of take a small containment area and sit there for a couple generations and have it's more about people who are willing to come in and play. We're very focused on talent. We won't just take anybody, unfortunately. I mean, there are a lot of really talented players, but we are very committed to, like, for example, our EDS squad, or elite development squad. Those would be the people that we would see, eventually go to Europe, MLS, or higher level collegiate play. It's our goal to, through sponsorships, make that entirely free, which is very uncommon in America. And it's all this sort of this issue of like our main containment area is lower income families, and we have a lot of immigrants from Portugal, Brazil, Latin America, Spain, and so it's some of our best players come from families that can't necessarily afford the traditional academy experience in America, and that's it's very important for us to find a pathway for them in.
Question from Mona Moore: is it difficult to try and play with masks? I don't know if we saw the footage earlier on. Yeah, this guy, I can already sense that this guy's gonna be good. By the way.
Yeah, look at that no look pass.
Yeah. There we go. It's,
yeah.
Well,
no, it's I haven't heard many complaints about the playing with masks. Unfortunately, yeah, I mean, COVID has been really tough in our area. We've been very lucky to be safe at the academy, and we follow all the protocol. We actually have a lot of our parents are watching from their cars now, and we have designated safe zones for players to go drink water and everything. We're very careful about that stuff, and we're lucky to have not been affected too harsh.
Tell me a little bit about, before we go to the next subject, tell me a little bit about the girls system, because I think you said that this is very unique for you guys, that you have a girls option.
Yeah, well, in America, we have such a strong, well, I want to say we have a very budding women's soccer culture. Our women's soccer is much stronger than our men's. You look at the women's national team, I mean, they're excellent. So we're very keen on developing players, girl players for the national team and leagues abroad. I think that there's much more of a, I don't want to say we have a leg up, but I think we're much more advanced in our, as a country, not in the academy, in our girls programming. So I think that, the first player to come from our academy and play for the first team in Juve is probably going to be a girl, honestly, just because of the, where we as Americans exist in the skill level of women's soccer. It's pretty high.
Would you say that one of these ladies are going to play for Juve women?
Yes, absolutely possible. Any of the people we've seen could be a star in the future.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, this is interesting. Look at these lads and girls. I mean, this is incredible. This is a new generation upcoming, and you guys are taking it very seriously. The only thing that I do not like, though, is where are the official kits?
Yeah, we have a lot of different kits. We have the blues, we have the The more traditional stripes, yes. I'm not. I'm not in the decision making on the kits, but I think they're great. We don't
Yeah,
want to. Us Americans, we get tripped up. We think that the traditional Juve jersey is like a referee's jersey.
yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Yes. What is the split from Pierre? Question. What is the split between the girls and the guys in the academy?
I actually don't have any numbers on that. That's a great question. I think it's roughly even. I would guess, honestly, we might have more girls. I've been paying a lot of attention to what our girls have been doing recently because they just did some major charity event. Actually, one of our Greater Boston girls team just started this really cool challenge for themselves where they wanted to sort of like make an impact in the community, and they ended up these like 15-year-old girls raised $1,000 to be
Wow.
used to buy homeless people winter gear. It was really awesome. So I've been
Well
kind of
done. Well
tuned
done.
into the Girls Academy the past couple of days.
Well done. This is awesome. All right. And you said that you yourself were planning to go to Turin, actually.
Yeah, apparently we go pretty often, like once a year. There are trips, and we make an effort to make so some of our players can go for free for the Academy World Cup and everything, or the Academy Club Cup. So hopefully I'll be out there soon. I've never actually been to Turin. I've never seen Juve play live, so maybe eventually I'll get to go for work now.
Yeah. And then you get to meet somebody. Then I hope.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll get to meet Agnelli or something, and I'll have to tell him I drive a Fiat though.
Yeah, for sure. Look at this guy. I'm fond of this guy. If you see him next time, Mason, can you say hi from me? Because this picture is awesome. He is freaking awesome. This guy, the new Pirlo.
Yes,
I can already see
so
that.
in addition to all the footage that we take of the kids, we actually have we're really into technology, not just as a marketing tool. We actually have these things called it's VO. It's a video recording software we put on the fields for practices and games, and our elite players actually wear tracking devices on their boots, and so we can get all this detailed data about how they're playing. How many yards they sprinted, how many touches they took, what feet they shot with, and it's all synced up to this video recording that we do. Every coach is able to record, and it's automatically pulled, so we can automatically see every action that a player is part of after a game just by clicking on their name in the software. It's incredible.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So you already talked about the tactical principles and the technology used. Do you have anything else? In mind in terms of technology besides the one that you just
technology is a big part of what we're doing. We use Sports Lab 360 and Techno Football as well, which are training apps. It's really important for us that our players understand the elements of the game broken down to the minute, for example, with those video recordings that we take, we store those for our players for free. So that at any point in time they can review them, they can send them to scouts, they can send them to other academies or colleges. So it's really important that we use. I think it's the larger theme of because we work as Juventus, we have a lot of resources that we can offer to our kids, and it's very important for us to leverage those resources in our mission to make these kids pros. It's a great privilege to work with Juve, and I think we take that very seriously, and so we invest very heavily in cutting edge technology and everything. And we don't want to ever get lazy or anything.
Yes, one more. He says that 20 years ago this would not have been possible for the young girls to wanted to play football. Yeah, this is true, and there we go. This is the future, and in my opinion, this is how it should be. I mean, everybody should get a chance to showcase their talent, and there we go. Juve Academy Boston. Yes, please, guys, continue with your questions. But before we go in further, can I show this video once again, Mason?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I freaking love this. Okay, guys, this is what should I call it? It's Juve Academy Boston, the Avengers. we go. There was a little lag there, but still a freaking great video. All right, guys, if you have any questions, please let us know. We're talking Juve Academy Boston. And if I am staying, if I'm living in the nearby in Boston, how do I join in on this?
Oh yes,
if I'm a kid or if I'm a youngster.
Yeah, we have a lot of programs. It's very important for us to be involved in the local community. So we have a lot of free programs like our Juve Futures, which is, like I explained, for the youngest kids. We have free goalkeeping workshops once a week. We have frequent tryouts. There's the structure of the academy. But yeah, we always have events going on. We have some tournaments coming up, and we're trying to make the connection to the Boston area as strong as possible. And we really, obviously, all of our staff, we care about soccer immensely, and so this is a passion project for all of us. And we come from all over the world, but Boston is all our homes now, so we want to share with everybody what we're doing. And free programming like Juve Futures and their goalkeeping workshops and our free tryouts are a big part of that. If you live in the Rhode Island area, we actually have tryouts coming up. If you want to check out our Instagram page at Juventus Academy Boston, you can find out more information there. We list our coaches' emails, so everybody can feel comfortable reaching out and asking questions.
What is the if you are good enough, if you go to pro and you are good enough to even take a step further, what is the next step for a player? Would there be any scouting from Juve coming from abroad and taking a closer look at this player, or is it the player himself with agent or somebody who he or she is associated with? Do they need to do something extra in order to showcase themselves?
That's a great question. I think that's kind of like a larger, American soccer right now, I think we're all kind of trying to figure out what it is. I know that doesn't really answer your question, but I think that, for example, in Juventus, I think that they're cautious and they're optimistic about our players. I think they're kind of surprised by the quality that's coming out of America. Look at Weston McKennie, for example. I think a lot of us Juventino were very shocked to see him come on and especially be so good. So I think we're in this period of time where we're really, in America, we're kind of like forging our own soccer identity. So I think as far as players through our academy going pro, I think it's going to be a process of starting out at MLS and Serie B, Serie C. I think it's going to be a slow process. I think our first pro players aren't going to be, in the starting 11 for Juve, for example. But I think that is on the horizon. It's all about sort of building up a reputation and building up a sporting culture within our academy and within the area. Because this is something that isn't really being done much in America, and Juve is kind of on the forefront of it. So as we're branching out, we haven't even had a player go through the entire academy yet because we've only been around for 3 years. So, in the next 5 years, 10 years, we'll have had players that we fully produce from our academy. And then I think we'll have a more clear idea of what that process will look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is very, very interesting. Let's see. Yes, what is your specific job at the academy? This is the question. We actually forgot to ask you that. Sorry.
Oh no, I'm the marketing manager, so I work on highlighting Juve's presence in the area, kind of explaining what Juve is all about. Interestingly enough, there's not a huge Juventus following in this area, and I think it goes back to what I said. I think Americans are still trying to make sense of what Juve is, and I think Juve is still trying to make sense of what America is. So I think my job is kind of like easing that transition and helping show people here what Calcio is all about, helping show how legitimate the academy is, because I think in America we're kind of standoffish of academies. And then on the other end, showing Juve fans what we're all about and getting people excited about the program. And, because this program is much more than a marketing opportunity. It's a real exploration of America as a soccer country. So we're all kind of pitching in to make that happen, and my job in that is marketing.
Mm-hmm. Let me just pull out those pictures again. I freaking love watching these young players develop. It's amazing. Would you say that since you have a name of Juve, Juventus Academy boss, that automatically attracts more youngsters?
I think in some ways, yes. I mean, I think the knowledge of Juventus, I mean, is sporadic in the Boston area. I mean, some families are definitely hardcore Juventinos, first, second generation Italians. We have a lot of immigrant families in the area, so a lot of them have clubs that they support in their home countries. And we also have a lot of players who have never heard of Juventus, honestly. So it's a mixed bag, but there is a general knowledge of calcio in America that's starting to grow. Like, for example, there's a Juventus official club in Boston, and so I think there are pockets of fandoms that are growing. And also, our coaches too. We have coaches who kind of come from all over, so they bring with them a lot of different styles and everything. So we're in this blending of Juve and like the American style, the British style, the Portuguese style, the Brazilian style of play. So we're kind of like forging a new sort of identity.
All right, nice. This is so awesome. And this is the guy who's on picture now. This is the head coach for Juve girls. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's the director of the girls' academy, Brad Furnival. He's a great guy. We have a director for the girls' academy, a director for the boys' academy, a president, and then we have a technical director, Ziggy, business development director. Yeah, could I just talk about some of our coaches for a minute?
Sure.
Yeah, we have so we have a lot of UEFA licensed coaches and USSF licensed coaches. Our coaches kind of come from all over. We have some coaches from the Getafe youth system, South African national team, MLS coaches, Antigua GFC, Bundesliga player or Bundesliga 2 player. We just hired Andy Dorman, which we're all really excited about. He's I don't know if you know St. Mirren, the club in Scotland. He's a bit of a legend there. And he played for Crystal Palace and the Welsh national team. So we're bringing people from all over with all different levels of experience as players and coaches. And I think that's really important for our youngsters because professional soccer kind of seems very far away in New England. And to have somebody like Andy, available, somebody who played professionally is really beneficial for our kids. It shows them, the traits and that it's a realistic goal, to have some former pros and former college players so accessible.
Here's a funny one. Well, that would be something, man. It would be chain smoking on the sidelines while young girls and young boys are.
Yeah, I don't think we allow smoking at the games.
There we go. That's a good one. One more. I love that one. Thanks. Yeah, this. Yeah, I have a question as well for you. Which is maybe a little bit outside of football. But what does this Juve Academy boss do for the community in the area for the youngsters? Because, well, I guess this is not only football. This is also maybe some social gatherings outside of the football, or is it just basically only training and games and that's it? Or is there much more social gatherings? Because these young players, the young kids, basically, they. Well, for sure, they're interested in more than just training.
Oh yeah, I mean, it can be broken down in a lot of ways. Our players have great relationships with the coaches, great relationships with each other. But we do emphasize the social factor very heavily, and the mental factor. It kind of goes together. I mean, how many times have you seen a great player at the pro level get an injury and then kind of fall off because of uncertainty or a self-doubt? So we try to make our players very conscious of the mental elements of the game and the social elements of the game. To play well, you have to really trust the people around you. You have to be comfortable giving them the ball. You have to understand it's not an individual game. It's a team game. And so we really encourage our academy members to think about those aspects. Like I said, we started some charity programs within the academy, and the obviously we want to help out in the area and form bonds with the community. But a lot of the purpose of that is encouraging our kids to take initiatives, like so that community impact project that I had spoken about earlier. It's called Take the Lead, and so one of our coaches, Brian Lighton, came up with it, and the whole purpose was to kind of give them a challenge for themselves and then let them run with it, and give them the responsibility of taking it on and the motivation. And we were really proud that they followed through and found a charity and worked with them, because that's sort of the X factor, I think, in a lot of ways that makes a great player is the you can't really, I mean, you can definitely train that, but it's something that has to come from within. You have to motivate that out of them. You can't just, wave a magic wand and make a player have that determination and that sense of responsibility, both on and off the pitch. And, I mean, since we're operating under such a sort of a new style of soccer that's blending with Calcio, we kind of have to consider, so if we want some of our players to go to colleges, some to go play in the Bundesliga, some to go to play in Italy, our players have to be sort of malleable in a way. Like we don't develop players who fit only into one system. We develop players who are comfortable learning and comfortable accepting instruction. And that's a big thing for us in our long term is, as we send some players, in America, some abroad, they're going to be playing completely different styles of football in their careers. And so it's important for us to instill in them sort of a universality and an ability to adapt. So I don't know if that answered your question or not. Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's actually, yeah, the exactly the answer I was looking for. Anish has another question for you. How many divisions are there in the US? Have they? Yes. How do they manage 24 teams like Serie A, Serie B, or Serie C? I don't know if you can answer that.
Yeah, in the US, I don't know if you mean MLS or in the academy. I know MLS has
MLS probably, yeah.
Yeah, I know that they have a secondary league, I think. But I'm honestly not very tuned into MLS. I have to admit, I'm a Juventino, so I'm watching Serie A with the rest of you guys.
That's a good answer. Another good answer from Mason. I love this. Yes, and also, yes, you mentioned there was a competition between the academies. You mentioned the World Cup, which is very cool thing.
So once a year in June, a lot of the academies get together in Turin. They train with the coaches at the Juventus Academy, and they play with other. It's not. I mean, it is a competition, but obviously we support the other academies. We're not mortal enemies with Juventus Academy Houston or something, but they do play, and it is a competition. I think most recently Juventus Academy Tunisia won the Academy Club Cup.
Oh wow! There we go. Shout out to Juventus Academy Tunisia, of all places. Wow.
But outside of that, we play in local leagues in the New England area. And then we, so for our senior teams and our EDS teams, we try to take them to 2 tournaments a year. And we have tournaments that we're starting now. So they play within local leagues.
Wow. And how is it structured do you paying for the travel yourselves, or is the Juve covering the travel bill?
We're all independent of Juve in that regard. Okay. So yeah.
So you're covering it all yourselves. All right. Yes. If there are any more questions, please let me know. If there are not any more questions, last one, Mason. How do they reach out to you if they want to join? One last time.
That's a great question. So you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Juventus Academy Boston. We're also on TikTok. We have a website, JuventusAcademyBoston.com. If you're in the area, we're always holding free events, free tryouts, Juve Futures. We kind of have an open door policy as far as getting kids introduced to the academy. We want new players, and we're growing very rapidly. So if you're in the Boston area, please visit our website and check out our social pages for events and news and opportunities to join, and also just what we're doing in the community.
Cool, man. This is exciting. I love this. Thank you so very much for joining. But before you leave, I have to introduce my next guest because I see he's drinking his cup of tea, or maybe it's a coffee. I don't know. There we go. Daniel is in the house. Nice to see you, Daniel. Finally.
Glad to be here.
Nice. Listen, Juve Academy and all that jazz. Are you familiar with this concept?
In US, yeah, I think I don't know, Mason. By the way, it's a fantastic job. Really enjoyed your talk with Roman. I thought New York also has one, or maybe New Jersey.
Yeah, I think so. There are some camps and there are some academies.
I see.
There might be an academy in New York, but there might be a summer camp. I looked at the map before I came on just to brush up on my knowledge. But yes, they're sort of all over and they're popping up. Yeah, they're all over the world now. 65 of them, I think.
Yeah. Wow. To answer Roman's, I am familiar with their academies, and I think there's one very close to where I live. It's about, I think, 45 minutes drive in Jersey.
There we go. So they are really expanding. Mason, again, thank you so much for joining this one.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Great fun. And guys, please check out, what's it, at Juventus Boston? No, Boston Juventus. Is it on Twitter?
Yeah, our Instagram and our Instagram is Juventus Academy Boston. Our Twitter is Boston Juventus. And then our website is Juventus Boston or JuventusAcademyBoston.com.
There we go. All right. Thank you for joining, Mason, and see ya.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
I will kick you out from here because now it's a real deal between me and Daniel. All right. So first of all, go away, Mason.
I can't figure out how to leave.
There we go. There we go. All right.
First of all, you can hear me, right? I don't know if
I can hear you perfectly well.
Okay.
So, Daniel, first of all, welcome to Juve Therapy.
Thank you.
Finally, I find the courage to bring you on. Listen, please, first of all, introduce yourself. What do you do before we start with the Juve stuff?
Sure. I'm an emergency doctor and ICU doctor. I do both. I split my time between the two, so I do a month of each here in Long Island. And I did train in United States, but I was actually born in Iran. I've been a Juventus fan. I guess that's a nice segue since 1995, I think.
Yeah.
Through the thick and thin. And I got really excited about a player with a really nice ponytail back in the day. And I was very curious to figure out who is he playing for. And then the very next season, they actually sold him only to bring on the one true idol, Alessandro Del Piero, whom at the time actually I think was 19. So as soon as I saw the magic that he could create, I was hooked on for life.
Wow, yeah. Me and you basically have the similar story because I also fell in love with Juve because of Baggio, and then it just grew even more with, of course, Del Piero and Paulo Di Ceglia. Kidding. And all that, but it's great. It's great. 1995, and so yes, you've been through thick and thin, as you say. Indeed. But back to present day, and of course we have now tomorrow in exactly 24 hours actually we are playing against Verona away, Daniel, and we have a bunch of injuries which I will really want to pick your brain on, because what we hear is not exactly everything that is true, or they just withhold some info, I don't know, basically, or maybe it's just because they don't have any idea. But with Arthur, for example, we have a day-to-day replies, and the same thing with Dybala. With Chiellini, we kind of figure out that his body's getting older, and that's it. But with those two players that we really miss, the fans really crave for Arthur and Dybala. But and I want to pick your brain as to what is wrong with these guys. So I want to start off.
Sure, but before we go on, can I get?
Yeah.
I promise it's not going to be like a medical lecture at all, but I just need to give my disclaimer. So with the proviso that I'm not a sports medicine specialist, you can actually, in the United States, you can become a sports medicine specialist from being an emergency physician. It's a subspecialty of emergency medicine. And for the vast majority of professional sports, orthopedic surgeons are actually people who would be the doctors that you see working for these professional clubs. However, I do follow these fields in a somewhat scientific way, reading the literature, reading the papers that come out on these studies that they do about injuries and how they should be treated and what they can do. So just whatever I say going forward, take with a grain of salt, and knowing that I'm not the actual expert on this.
Well, at least you know more than all of us present. So we'll see. So let me start off with. Let me just figure this one out. Cannot figure this one out. Okay, let's start off again. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Let's see. All right, here we go. So this is something that you.
Oh, this is Arthur's. Yes.
This is Arthur. Yes. So let's begin with. As I said to you, man. Explain it to us as if we were 5-year-olds, because we have no idea what this is and what we are looking at even. So
okay,
this is Arthur's injury, right?
I'll try. Yeah. Yes. So Arthur, I think it was last month, I think late January, that we first heard about this injury. And at first, I don't think he actually was subbed off. He actually played the entire game, which speaks to the fact that this is a very special kind of injury that he has. So the official report from Juventus, I believe, or people who are very close to Juventus, because the way these clubs work nowadays is they won't put out anything that they are not comfortable with. So, for example, if you have a player who tore his ACL, that's a long-term injury. There's no way around it. They're going to be out for 6 to 9 months. And they would announce it. There would be an announcement going out, like when Marquisio actually sustained an ACL injury. They put out a statement, but short of those long-term injuries, they usually don't have an official statement. But there are people who are very close to Juventus, and you can kind of consider them, whatever they say is official. What they have said is that he has calcifications in the interosseous membrane. So as you can see, that picture up in the middle, the pink layer, the pink connections between two is the interosseous membrane. Now, those two green and yellow bones are the bones of your leg. So the one that is yellow sits outside to your leg, and the one that is thicker and green is the main weight carrier of your legs. These two. I mean, this is a very simplified picture, are connected with lots of thick connective tissue, whether it's a ligament or tendons. These are essentially support structures around these two bones to make sure they don't separate, because they're two separate bones and they can come off very easily. And they're on top of all those things, they're also buried under lots of muscles, which also acts as support structures. But what happens is, if you have rotational movement, meaning that the green piece and the yellow piece moving on their axis and against each other, there is no other structure to prevent that other than this membrane.
How is it possible that they move contra each other?
So it's especially with shear force in ankle and knee joints. So if you're running, for example, in his signature move is to try to draw on an opposition player and then try to go around them, right? So those rotational movements, when he's trying to essentially pivot around one of his legs, and I think he's almost always does it on his left leg, I believe. Those movements can cause that, because to be able to do that, you essentially have to pivot around something. And more or less, it becomes, from a physical standpoint, it becomes the green bone that will act as your pivot, and then your whole body rotate around it, usually around your ankle, less often around your knee. Your knee allows for very limited movements in that respect, whereas your ankle is very free. So your ankle has a lot of movements. As you can think, you can move your foot left and right quite a bit, whereas you can't do that with your knee. And these movements can, from time to time, cause problems, especially if you're doing it in this, I don't know how to say this, in this surprising manner, in an unanticipated manner. That way, that all that force gets transmitted, and it can cause problems. Now, this membrane is there to prevent that. So these two bones would stay affixed to each other. They would not move against each other unless you have enough of a force to tear this membrane. And you don't tear the entire membrane. You just have what we call micro tears. They're tiny, tiny breaks in that membrane. And it hurts, because as soon as it tears, then you have fluid around it. This is a normal inflammation response everywhere in your body. When you have an injury, then fluids gets there to help healing. And what happens is, second to that, you would have swelling and pain. Now, most of the time, if you're not a professional athlete, you just rest and it gets better. So if you come to my emergency room with the similar description of what happened, and I examine you and I get an x-ray and I don't see any breaks in the bones, then usually what we just say is elevate it, put some ice on it, and try to do early exercises as long as you tolerate it, and get some anti-inflammatory medications. And that's pretty much it. But you usually need at least a couple of weeks for these inflammation to go away. And as you can imagine, you can't really afford that with professional players. So there are specialized physiotherapy sessions. There's really high-tech methods to shorten this time. But if you continue to have this injury over and over and over again, all these small tears, what body does, it kind of figures out that it's not going to get healed. This guy is not letting me to heal this. So instead, fills that membrane with calcifications, which is essentially calcium molecules, which makes the vast majority of the part of your bones in that membrane, to just make it thicker and less prone to ruptures. So it's less risky for it to get another tear. But the downside is, as you can imagine, it makes it less elastic. So the next time that you would have another force of injury, you would probably not have a tear at the same level, at the same energy. But if you experience a higher energy injury, then it would tear, and it would be a lot more difficult to actually heal, because now you have calcium in there. This is a very tricky injury. It happens with, again, repeated damage without time to heal. And once it gets past a certain point, and that certain point is very different for what you need to do. So if you're not an athlete, most of the time, physicians would say, just rest for a few months, don't do anything serious, and then just let it be, and we'll get better. It just takes some meds for pills to make it better. But if you're looking at the other end, which is like the really cutting edge treatments, is either to inject locally, meaning just put a needle there, put some medicine there that would prevent more inflammation, or even reverses the inflammation process, or give painkiller injections in that area just for him to be able to get by. Now, this is not like it's not a destabilizing injury, in the sense that it's not like an ACL injury where once it's injured, or even if it's slightly injured, you can't really practice or play. You can definitely play. It's just that there would come a time that it becomes so painful that you won't be able to play anymore. So I think what happened is, and I looked back at Arthur's injury history with Barcelona, and it sounds like he actually had a bunch of these back at Barcelona. And I think they probably were just temporizing it, just waiting it out and doing these kind of temporary treatments instead of the definitive treatment, which is surgery. Now, the tricky thing with the injury is, as you can imagine, again, this is a simplified picture. This is buried under muscle and a lot of other structures. And to get to this structure, you need to cut a lot of things. And once you cut, it takes a lot of time for the body to heal. So I think it would be between 3 to 6 months if he ends up needing a surgery.
This is very, very interesting. But I have a question for you. He is what? 23? 23, yes. So, and he's not an old player. But why? No. Why does this happen to such a young player? Is this because that he used this signature move, as you say, all the time? This is what caused this, or is it just biological?
It's probably a combination. Now, no two bodies are essentially the same. Some people would have more energy transferred to their joints and easily withstand that injury, and some others would injure themselves with half of that energy. So some of it is genetic, essentially. Like you can't really do much about it. But I think at the very least, some of it has to do with the style of play and the methodology of their training, like how they train. Remember a couple of years ago, there were all these talks about Juventus players all getting injured nonstop, and maybe this is something to do with how they train. There were different philosophies of how to exercise and train, especially for competitive matches. From time to time, one gets really popular, and they think that it's associated with better performance or lower injury rate. And as you can imagine, no one wants to stick with something that is inferior. So everyone would follow suit and go to the new regimen. So I assume, I suspect Juve already have done that. But part of it is also, again, out of anybody's hands, honestly. It's just how your body is built.
There is a question here from Anish. How long do you think he can stay out?
Oh, I think it all depends on the decision they will make regarding his injury. If they decide to just operate on him right now, I would estimate something between 3 to 6 months. This is just return to, there are technical terms for this. They call it return to play, meaning that he is okay to go on the pitch. But as you can see, and have you seen it, returning on a pitch does not exactly mean you're match ready. So there's usually a kind of like a sit-in period between when the player comes back on the pitch and when they can actually play competitively. And probably that time is anything between 2 to 4 weeks. So adding that, we might even be looking at 7 months. The problem is this is one of those injuries that have less of an uncertain recovery period. Like it could be that you would get better in 3 months, or it could be that it would take all the way to like a year, 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. This is not good news, Daniel.
I know. Tell me about it.
Yeah. Yes. There is a good comment there. I don't know if, this is also quite interesting because has Juve done the good enough research? Or Barca probably maybe withheld some information regarding his injury, or maybe they didn't even have a clue themselves.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm not very familiar with how they act, but in these circumstances. But based on what I have seen from Juventus, like putting out statements and all those things, it seems like they are very cautious about what they say officially about their players' injuries. Because if you think about them, these are essentially companies, and the players are, as much as we don't like to think of them that way, are assets. And it is like having a $50 million yacht having a broken sail. That's really, really bad news. And I think I would assume they have done their due diligence. J Medical is, thanks to Kadira, is a state-of-the-art organization, I would say. They actually, as far as I know, there's not a lot that you can read about, but of the official statements that Juventus put on their website, they have their own imaging instruments. They have an MRI device that they can use on their own. So instead of sending your player to a hospital and wait for a few hours to get their tests done, they actually do all their tests in-house, which is amazing. And it cuts the time. So I've heard that for certain players, if there's any concern, remember the time that Bonucci came out holding the back of his thigh, his hamstring. So the old way 20 years ago, or clubs who cannot afford this, what happens is they just tell the player to go home and rest and put ice on it, and then the next day then send them to some hospital or a facility, and then they would decide what to do. With Bonucci and with, I think, Chiellini as well last year when he got injured, they immediately sent them the same night to J Medical to get the test done at that time. And with an MRI, the nice thing is you get a very detailed look at all the structures. So whether it's a bone fracture or a ligamentous injury or a muscle tear, you would know. And you can start the recovery phase right that night. So you know what is the right move immediately after injury. So that hopefully would cut the recovery time significantly. So that's I think that's pretty nice that Juventus has that facility.
Yeah, it looks like they need it. To be fair. All right, so we wish Arthur speedy recovery. And well, if we talk as fans, Daniel, do you think you are gonna go and do a surgery already now, or wait until the summer?
Do I think what Juventus does, or do I think what Juventus should do?
Do you think what Juventus will do?
I think what Juventus should do is to just let him have the operation right now.
Yeah,
I think it would. Now this goes back to what I think are the season's objectives. I think a lot of Juventus fans have somewhat unrealistic. I think it's just because 10 is a round number, and they still have that idea of we're going to win the 10th Scudetti in a row, and then we can let go and let the teams win it. But realistically, I think it would risk a lot. I think this season it would be very risky to try and push Arthur for this. Now, for Arthur, you can make the case that there's really no replacement even in youth team under 20 for him. We don't really have much. And as much as I love Fagioli, I don't think Pirlo is going to give the keys to his midfield to a 20-year-old. Now, and it's very unfortunate what happened psychologically to Bentancur. I think that came at a very, very bad time, his mistakes against Porto. But I think what Juventus will do is they're probably going to push him to play with pain, and especially if we get past Porto, which I believe we will, and get an easy draw in the next round. Like if we avoid City and Bayern, I think they would think that we have a legitimate chance of getting in the last four and would not let him operate. But again, I think this goes back to what are the objectives. I know that Pirlo just came out today saying that Serie A is still an objective. We're in the fight for all three tournaments, and we want to win all of them. But I think in reality, it would be more reasonable to let him operate. So next season we'll have ready to go, who I think is a world-class midfielder.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens with J Medical, what they decide. But we are not done. We're just getting started, Daniel, because we have another one on our list, which is even more interesting.
Well, Juventus, when it comes to injuries, Juventus will not let you be short of topics.
No, if you start working at J Medical, you're safe for life. You will not be fired anytime soon. You have a job to do. And Douglas Costa will also arrive after this season. So he's got all of his issues. So there we go. So, Paulo, Dybala. I don't know which one do you want to take, this one or this one?
Both, but I was wondering because this is, I don't know if you have the option of zooming in a little bit. So this one is a simplified picture. So Dybala, I think just today I read from a few sources confirming that he actually has been seen by one of the world's experts in knee sports-related injuries. And they at least officially they confirmed that he does not need surgery at this time. But now that I think that the caveat is at this time, which means that he may need it going forward. Now, his injury, which I think is actually a recurrence of his 2017 injury. You remember I can't remember against which team it was, but he was trying to make a run from the middle of the field, and then he fell down and pulled his hamstring, the back of his thigh. It's on the same leg, but different part. And his problem, at least according to the official reports, is that he has a tear in his MCL or medial collateral ligament. It's the one on the left side. Now, this is a schema of the bones and the most important structures keeping the integrity of the knee, keeping the knee stable. And they removed a lot of other structures. Just to orient everyone, the triangular structure in the middle that you see is a kneecap, is the patella bone. So that's like front, and then the MCL is to the inside of your knee, and the LCL or lateral collateral ligament is to the outside of your knee. So we're looking at and fast, like from front. These structures make sure that, along with the ACL and other structures that are not pictured here, they make sure that the knee joint works in only one plane. And that is, as you can see, it goes this way, only this way. It prevents the knee to go this way, and it prevents the knee to go hyperextension, meaning more than it needs to go. And it's very crucial. Now, as you can imagine, this is really good. This physically and mechanically, this is a really good structure if you're just running in straight line. It's really good because it allows maximum movement in that joint for lifting your foot and doing the sprint. It's not as well structured if you're planning to do feints and turning suddenly. And that's where most of the most classical instance of tearing your cruciate ligaments, the ACL and PCL, is exactly that, when the player is running and then trying to switch direction, and the rotational movement, the two bones go this way. And the ACL that is pictured is just get overstretched, and then it tears. The MCL prevents this movement. So in other words, it prevents the knee to go out. So it's very important for the knee not to do that, because otherwise you won't be able to stand up. Now, when this happens, there's really not a lot you can do short of rest. I know that you would probably start feeling like a theme here, either rest or surgery. but there's not really a lot you can do other than allowing time for the body to heal. And if it's a full, what we call the full thickness tear, which means that the entire ligament is broken and torn, to just put it back in where it inserts originally. Now his is not torn. The report from today also confirmed that that's not the case. But what happens is with these professional players, because they don't do the regular thing, which is don't do anything severe enough to cause injury for like a month. That's the official, like, if you're not an athlete, that's what doctors will tell you. They can't do that. So they go back and they cause the similar problem, which is swelling and fluid around these structures. And it takes a long time for it to go away. And then, yeah, so this is the second picture. As you can see, all the quadriceps, or the big thigh muscle in the front of your thigh, ends up on your patella, but there are also a lot of muscles on the sides and tendons that help support the knee structure. Now his is, they call it stretch, which essentially means there are, again, micro tears, small tears inside the ligament itself, which just makes it weak. So you won't be able to withstand the same amount of force that you would have usually applied trying to run and then feinting and going one side and then turning the other way. And I think that's his problem. Now, I think there is more hope, given that I would just, I think I would believe what the report said, that the world premier knee expert is saying that he doesn't need the surgery. But I would say he said at this time, which means that he thinks that there's a chance, and they put like percentage on these, that maybe there's a 50% chance that if you wait for a month, then it all gets better, and then he can be available mid-March or something like that. You would still get a couple of months out of him. Plus, he wouldn't be out for 6 months. So I think they do essentially a cost-benefit analysis and saying this is high enough of a chance that he wouldn't need surgery that we're willing to take it. Now, the downside, as you can imagine, is you would essentially be risking even longer time out without gaining anything. Now, there's a realistic chance that 3 weeks from now, we would realize that no, he actually needs the surgery. So on top of whatever time he needs for recovery, we also lost these 3 weeks. Now, unlike Arthur, personally, I think this is a reasonable chance to take, because I think Dybala, especially for this stretch of League and Champions League, is so fundamental. I think having a healthy Dybala would help the team tremendously. And I think part of the reason that we haven't performed to the standards that we would have set in the beginning of the season is we essentially hadn't had Dybala. And I think he contributes so much with his flair, with his football intelligence. He's just added that added extra dimension to the game. And I think Pirlo repeatedly has said that. I think the first goal that he scored, he also went and embraced Pirlo, right? Hugged him, jumped on him. And I think this is, I probably would have done the same if I was in charge of making those decisions at Juventus.
Thank you for this, Daniel. Wonderful stuff. Zaniolo's injury, are you familiar with this one?
No, Zaniolo actually tore his ACL. The ligament that we just talked about, the anterior cruciate ligament, is actually on this picture. The thing that is really concerning about Zaniolo, and you see it in the middle of the picture, right under the kneecap. As I said, so that ligament prevents forward movement of one of the bones against each other. And his injury, the thing that makes it really, really bad news is he actually ruptured ACLs on both sides. So the first injury was on, I believe, the right, and the second was on the left. So that's really, really bad news. It could be that he's just unlucky, and it's like his body is built this way to be just really susceptible to this, or he was just extremely unlucky and was in a situation that really, despite all the studies that they've done, no way to prevent. Like this, it just happens. But I think once you have ACL injuries, the risk of having another one within 2 to 3 years is about like 50%. So I think Zaniolo is going to be a very risky investment for whoever wants to approach him.
Okay, so stay away, basically.
I would, even after his first injury, I wanted it was on my wish list, but after the second one, I don't know. I figured that like with one, you run the risk of having another injury in 2 or 3 years, but who cares? He's just he plays with so much confidence and adds so much to a midfield that I would have taken him.
Yeah, well, there we go. Fortunately, we have to fear that Dybala not will be out for a long time. Yeah, well, we will not see them against Porto, that's for sure.
I think they're out.
Yes, both of them. So we'll have to deal without those guys. Briefly, Daniel, we just take this one away. Giorgio Chiellini and his status. Why is he always injured?
I think the short answer is he's 37. Look, there is good data to suggest it's very interesting because the UEFA, the body that administers Champions League and the Euros, actually has this collaboration between all teams' doctors where they share the information that they have. So every year they have a master database, and they would just put in all the information about their players, I think at a competitive level. So which means that it would be both but just men, not women. The first team, the under 19, and if you have an under 23. So they created this massive database of I think hundreds of teams and thousands of games and tens of thousands of minutes played. And they try to figure out every now and then, they look at this data and try to make sense of it. So what they have published so far, it seems like there's definitely a correlation between what you can tolerate and your age. So the older you become, the more difficult it will be to remain healthy. Now, I would exclude Cristiano Ronaldo because I think he's just he's an outlier. Like he's I think 4 or 5 standard deviation outside of what you expect from normal humans. But the regular humans, especially with the style of play that Giorgio has, it just makes it very, very difficult to stay healthy. Now I know that a lot of people feel very strongly about him staying with the team, and there were rumors about him extending for another year. But personally, I think it's a huge liability for Juventus as a team. We just can't go on with another year with a 37-year-old who is really injury prone. Now, if you compare him to I don't think Sergio Ramos is same age, but he has been pretty consistent in being able to play most of the time. I mean, unless he got a red card and is suspended, which happens quite often. Not as frequently as it should, but it does happen quite frequently. But I think it speaks to the longer term trend that players are staying healthy for longer periods of time. Now, remember, 20, 30 years ago, this do I have 2 minutes to go on a tangent?
Go.
So based on it was back in the day, back in Iran. I was following the national team, and for the first time after 20 years, something very extra important happened, and that was Iran actually going to the World Cup for 1998 in France. And after that, there was a flurry of these players who were playing in the domestic league going to Bundesliga and starting this deluge of players going and playing in the other leagues in leagues in Europe. Now, I think the reason and flash forward 20 years. Now, I think the most prominent Iranian players that you can think of is Mehdi Taremi, the Porto's number 9 that scored. Now, I think we can all agree that it was not his talent that contributed to that goal. But as you know, Liga NOS is not even the top 5 league. And you can compare that with players from 20 years ago going from Iran and playing for Bayern Munich. In fact, there are 2 players who did that. And I think that the reason is 20 years ago, the standard or the levels of athleticism between players who don't do it professionally most of the time in countries like Iran and Germany was more or less the same. It was not that much different. There was not a lot of, oh, this is the nutrition plan for you. This is a specialist personalized trainer for you. You're going to bed at this time at night. And as you can imagine, it's a grueling schedule, right? It's not really easy for people to follow. You have to be really Cristiano Ronaldo type to be able to do that. But that has changed because what happened in all top 5 European leagues, they started in their academies training 8 and 9-year-olds to be able to do that and to become so athletic that the same forces that would have broken a 20-year-old is now just regular game injury. Like it's just something that they should just brush it off. And in 20 years, I think we have gained so much, probably to the detriment of players who came from non-professional leagues. But the upside is now players easily go into their 30s and play competitively. But there's always a limit. Like you can't push it. I can't imagine Cristiano Ronaldo would play until he's 50. So same goes for Chiellini. And Chiellini, to be perfectly honest, he actually had a lot more serious injuries than any other player that we have on Juventus roster right now. He tore his ACL once. He had multiple hamstring injuries. He had a bunch of concussions. I think he broke his nose probably 20 times. So this is a player that just has a lot of mileage on. And I don't know if there's any way around this other than telling him that you can be an executive in the Juventus organization and you should probably retire. Now the problem is I don't think I've looked before coming on and I couldn't find any updates as to what is his actual injury. So I'm not quite sure like what's the time frame for his return.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I tend to agree with you, Daniel, because I'm really getting tired of seeing Chiellini on the injury list always. And as much as we love the guy off the pitch, he's a leader. The defense mentally at least look more stable with him, but we cannot really trust a player. The same thing goes with Aaron Ramsey as well. He's an interesting player, but we just cannot trust a player who is that injury prone.
In Champions League, there's data that each season the rate of injury is about 14%. So if you have 1 out of 7 players would be out. So if you can think about it, it's 1.5 of your starting lineup would be injured sometime during the year. And you just can't afford having another player guaranteed to be injured. That's just not how you operate.
No, that's true. But you mentioned briefly Cristiano. And I guess there are a lot of fans who are fond of Cristiano watching this one right now. Why do you think, you mentioned this briefly, but why do you think he is so very rarely injured?
So a lot of other players are actually following that. I think I was reading an interview with Weston McKennie. He was saying that in one of the games, I can't remember, I think it must have been one of the Champions League games. They won, and they all were ecstatic, like, oh, we're so happy. I think it was actually after the Barcelona game at Camp Nou, and McKennie was saying that Ronaldo after the game went and jumped into the ice bath, which is really, as you can imagine, really unpleasant thing to do if you're like partying and being happy. And not only that, he was begging McKennie to do it with him, because he was like, come on, man, it's good for your muscles, do it. So it's a lot of things that other players would probably skip that he does religiously. And I think he took the mantra of your body is a temple very literally. He's really making it really clean and well preserved. I think he is very, very particular about his training. He is very much focused on his professional career, and as you can see, he's not the partying type. He, even at times when others are like taking a break, is just exercising. So, and it accumulates. It's like everything else. If you do something, I don't know if you're familiar with the 10,000 hour rule. If you do something long enough and there's a threshold that is arbitrarily put at 10,000 hours, which roughly translates to about 7 years. If you do something very consistently, eventually you become very good at it. There's a difference, like you go from 90% to 99 and then 99.9%. So you become really, 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 really good at it. And I think that's what Cristiano has done.
Interesting. What do you think his time frame is for the future in terms of being still able to play? You say he's not going to play until he's 50. But,
yeah. I don't know if you've I don't know if you've seen, but there's a player in the Japanese league, the J League,
yes.
Who is 51 years old and still continues to play. I'm just a little bit worried that Cristiano hears about it and gets some ideas. But but in all seriousness, I think he probably would continue until he's 40.
Yeah.
He hasn't had any injuries. If I remember correctly, he hasn't had any injuries with us so far. Like 2.5 seasons. No injuries, which is just spectacular. I mean, Aaron Ramsey should take notes. And he has that physicality that he can continue. I highly doubt he would stop before the age of 40. Now, whether it would be with Juventus or not, I don't know. If I were to decide whether I would extend his contract or not, personally, I would say, where do I sign? Because I think apart from, so here are the things that he has. He still pulls a lot of sets of eyes to wherever he goes, right? So as long as he's with Juventus, everyone from broadcasters to journalists to pundits, they're obligated to talk about us, right? They cannot ignore us. They have to talk about Ronaldo, and by extension, they have to talk about us. He has this social media influence that would tremendously help with getting a bigger footprint anywhere in the world. He, as we said, he never gets injured. So that's a guaranteed starter for you right there. And there are talks that he may even be open to not demanding the same wages.
Yeah. And
if that's true, I think that's a very reasonable investment. Now, I understand the counter arguments of, well, just his salary is 65 million euros net, and that if we don't pay him that, we will have the option of signing other players. But I don't think that's necessarily true. I think there are reports of analyses that people have done and showed that he essentially paid for himself with the commercial success that he brought with himself. Juventus hasn't really done hasn't taken a big economic hit.
So basically, it's a reconciliation of cost and revenue. It's basically
exactly
zero. Yeah, more or less.
Yeah,
and of course, on top of that, you have a lot of free income every time he scores, and and the social media goes crazy. So yeah, of course there'll be traffic as well. And he is our front face, whether we like it or not. I mean, the first thing you think about Juve is now that it is Cristiano. Is a front figure.
I mean, I'm a big fan of Dybala. I'm not going to hide it. And at first, when he came on, I was really hopeful that Allegri, being the real pragmatic, be able to figure out how to melt these two players together. And that didn't happen. And then Sarri came along, and Dybala had a fantastic season. It's just that it was not in collaborations with Ronaldo. And even then, we still, I think 40% of our goals were scored by Ronaldo alone, right? So that was still like two and a half seasons in, with all the injuries and all these things. I'm still very concerned about Ronaldo's effect on Dybala's both contract, his long-term plans, and all these things. But I still think there is a way out of this. I still think you can probably I trust Pirlo to find a solution to this.
Yes. All right. So let's see if we have any questions. What are you? Well, we'll go away from the medical stuff now, if that's okay with you, by the way.
Sure.
What are your thoughts about Felix Correa, or do you know of him?
Oh yeah. I'm not ashamed to say that I follow anyone in any group of players who have Juventus tag on their jersey. So I even if they're under 9s, I'll watch the game. I'll watch them live.
I know.
I'll go to the stadium. So I have been watching both the under 19 and under 23. The problem with the under 23 is Juventus TV, the app, does not stream it. So you have to find some other way, not entirely kosher way to watch it in the United States.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen, I really like his style. He's very physical. He's really, really quick, and he has this unique talent of taking shots at not ideal positions, like the ball in the air without needing to do a one touch and bring it down, or in a really awkward body position, like if he's not really comfortable and you see him just take a shot without hesitation. So in those respects, it's really nice. I think the only downside for now is he more or less occupies the same space that Cristiano Ronaldo does. So which means that you essentially have to bench Ronaldo to be able to play Correa.
Well, that's not going to happen.
No, I don't. Of the three, I would say of the three coaches that so far managed Cristiano Ronaldo, I think Pirlo has been most successful in managing him. Like as in I'm the coach. I will tell you when to play and when not to. Because if you remember, Sarri tried to do that, and I think there was a huge issue. And then Allegri, I think, subbed him, and he got really mad. So I think so far
he even left from the stadium. I think it was against Milan as well. He packed his bag and left from the stadium. Yeah, I remember that.
He was very, very unhappy. It's fine. I think it's part of his competitive nature.
Yeah. By the way, are you excited for the All or Nothing series from Amazon Prime?
I am. I watched a couple of episodes of the Tottenham one. And it was fun. It was. I think I didn't finish the entire series, but it looks like they do a lot of nice things with getting in the locker room and getting like people's personalities to come out, and I think that adds a lot of, because what the modern fan loves is the not necessarily, I don't know what to call it, not the gossip, but the human aspect of it. The older fans, all they care about is goals and winning. The nicer fan comes for the experience. They view the players as athletes / social media influencers. They want to know about them. They want to know the drama. So I think this is a great opportunity for Juventus, and I think kudos to the management for landing that contract.
Absolutely. There's a question for you, Daniel, about Sarri's health.
I was very, very concerned that he would God forbid, but he would drop dead at any point. He was smoking nonstop, and he looked like he put some miles on that body. He didn't look like a 60-year-old at all.
Oof, yeah. Well, I mean, we have Pirlo now. It's a completely different story. It's a more of a style on the bench, for sure.
Absolutely.
What do you think of him as a coach so far?
I love him. I think the only thing that I haven't been so enamored by is his somewhat change of heart in the month of January. Now, the month of January, if you look at the social media, is probably the most positive one by the Juventini. Everyone loved. We won, I think, 9 out of 8. We just lost to Inter, and despite drawing in the Copa, we actually got to the final. But if you looked at game by game, we weren't as like we had good possession and all those things, but we weren't as fun to watch as we were back in October. Now, back in October, we were drawing Crotone and Benevento.
Yes.
So the results, I fully see the point that people were happy with the results, but it just seems like I like to see the Pirlo who started Frabotta on the first day against Sampdoria, when everyone was like, "Fra what? Fra who?" Didn't even heard about this. I don't think I actually knew him, despite the fact that I was following the under-19 and under-23 teams, because I just didn't pay attention close enough to this player. But he had the guts to start him, and I want to see him doing that. I want to see him sticking to the same prospects. Now, I think you've seen probably the possible lineup saying that we're going to go with a variation of a 3-4-3 tomorrow. Instead of actually having a genuine right back now that Danilo is suspended. Yeah. I was really hoping that Dragushin would start as a right back. I think it would have done wonders for his confidence, but also allowed us to actually watch him in real action. Now, Verona is a really tricky. I mean, not just Verona themselves, but every team that Ivan Juric coaches is really tricky. And we really had bad experiences against Juric's teams in the past. But I still think it would have been really nice to see these youngsters start. Now, I know this is going to enrage a lot of Juventus fans, but if I was Pirlo, I would maybe still say that yes, Scudetto is our objective. But in reality, I would focus most of our energy on Champions League and try to make as deep of a run as possible for 2 reasons. One is, I think, again, going back to the social media presence and all those things, the longer you stay in Champions League, even if you don't win it, it's a success. It's a financial success for us. And 2, with the money, the revenues from Champions League, we would have better prospects of getting players that we want the next season. And then for the Scudetto race, I would probably just give the crazy instructions that he was giving to players in the beginning of the season, where we got 1 red card every game, and we would be scored on at least twice. But at the same time, it was so much fun to watch. Like the verticality in the Roma game, unbelievable. Like we were wide open in the back, but my gosh, it looked beautiful to see how they would move the ball forward, and just play a bunch of these youngsters. Like we don't have I understand that a lot of people are very hesitant about Frabotta after the famous Hakimi massacre. But I would still play him. I mean, he may not be a good enough of a left back to contain Frabotta. Now, just as a side note, I think it was partly Pirlo's fault that happened to Frabotta, because he had 0 cover.
Yeah, that's true.
In front of him. Now, if I were to start Frabotta, I would have started Bernardeschi in front of him, and I would just ask Berna to just track back all the time because he can run. I mean, there are a lot of things he can't do, but he can run.
Yeah, that's yes, that is the thing that he can do for sure. That is running, yeah.
But I would start for Bota. I would start Dragushin. I would probably give time to Fagioli. Consider this: if out of 5 or 6 players that he regularly calls up, De Graca, Di Pardo, if out of these 6 we get 2, not even starters, 2 worthy subs, that's immense for next season's transfer market. Which basically means if we get Dragushin, and let's say we're lucky enough to actually get Romero back, and we can ship off Rogani and Chiellini retires, then we're good. We're good in the back. We don't need to invest anything, right? Whereas if we just say, yeah, let's see if Chiellini can come back and plays for another season, then we're in the same situation 1 year from now, and then we have to invest 40 or 50 million just for a defender.
You mentioned briefly Fagioli and his sort of surprise appearance as well, because he hasn't featured that often for us, and suddenly he plays against Spal, and then he played like 10 or 15 minutes recently.
Yeah.
And suddenly, I spoke about this many times during my lives, and the fact that he's like a short player, red boots, long hair, likable style of play. It's very easy to fall in love with that kind of play. And of course, the fact that he has been Juventino all his life, and his father after him. I mean, there's just so Juventino-like love with this guy. And we also, kind of think about Claudio Marchisio, Alex Del Piero. But what do you think? Is he good enough? Or is he? Of course, it's very, very early to say right now. But if this is somebody that we think that we're gonna play him now in and out of the team, and then we're gonna loan out him next season because he's just not good enough to start for Juve, but he may be good enough to start for a Bologna, a Sassuolo, or something.
Right. I mean, I would just like to point out one cautionary tale. I love him. I watched him in under 19 and then with under 23. He actually most of the time played a more advanced role in those teams. He was kind of the attacking midfielder, making lots of runs into the box, which I loved. But in the interest of being a little bit more cautious, I would like to point out that we had a similar, very promising player whom we loaned out to Parma just at the beginning of this season, Hans Nicolosi Caviglia, who unfortunately actually tore his ACL.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, which is just heartbreaking. But I think it's very easy to fall in love with youngsters because there's that unknown factor, like what lies ahead, what could be. Now, at this point, I think most Juventinians have given up on Berna. I haven't, but most of them, despite the fact that he's only 26, people think that's his ceiling. Whereas with these young players, everyone is like imagining them in their minds of Nicolosi doing Marchisio things or Fagioli doing Pirlo things on the pitch for Juventus, which is just exhilarating. But having said that, I think I watched his 2 games, like the full game against, I believe, Genoa, right, in the Copa, and his game as a sub off the ball. So I actually replayed and watched his presence off the ball, not when he has the ball. And he is immensely intelligent. He is just go and watch what he does when he doesn't have ball possession.
Yeah.
It's just the envy of the entire midfield. I'm not going to lie. I'm a big, despite the fact that most Juventini hate our midfield, I'm actually loving all of them. I think we will have a very good and cohesive midfield in a year or two. But even then, there was not even a competition. Like, compare what Fagioli does off the ball with Rabiot. And it was especially embarrassing against Porta. What could have been if instead of Bento or Rabiot, Fagioli was there and not made so many elementary mistakes. Like it was just very basic things that you have to do off the ball that he was doing so well. Now we were 2 or 3 up, and the game was pretty much wrapped. But still, he took it so seriously, and it looked like it came to him very effortlessly, meaning that it's like it's a second nature. Like he knows that when he doesn't have the ball, he should give coverage to the to the defense, and when he is seeing the ball getting advanced, he should position himself in a way that opens more channels for the ball. I really like those movements. So. There's a reason that when he was, I think, 18, Allegri took the time of heaping praise on him, saying that he has immense talent.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with him. It is exciting days ahead of us because we have, as you said, Verona against Juve. Ivan Juric is actually, I've read somewhere that he is considered as a replacement for Gasperini when that time will come for Atalanta, which will be...
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah,
no, me neither. Because I also fond of Juric and the way he sets up his team without being, as the same thing goes with Gasperini. You can set up a great team with 11 average players. Take Deron out of Atalanta, and he's never going to start for Juve. But he's great for Atalanta.
Yeah.
It's
he's scoring in Europe.
Yes. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So making a unit is a special talent, and I think Juric has that. I don't know how these coaches would perform in a Juventuses of the world, the top 8 or top 4 clubs of Europe. I'm sure it's a different ball game. It's just we just need a different mentality. Like with Juric, I think they sold half of Verona's roster the end of the season, and he somehow magically managed to come up with a replacement for every single one of them. They sold Kumbula to Roma, and now they have another young player, Lovato, that is I'm reading being followed by Juventus and Inter Milan.
There we go. Yes, and I think this is starting with Z. I don't know.
Zakania.
Yeah, was it?
Yeah,
that's the one. All right, there we go. All right, guys, we are. Well, give me a prediction, Daniel, before we close this. What's going to happen tomorrow? Give me one.
For tomorrow,
because we need to win this one. There is no doubt. If we are going to go to the
true. What we need to do is not what necessarily will happen.
Yeah.
I think we would have a 1-1.
Ooh. Why?
It's very difficult. It's very difficult to score against Juric's team, especially if they get ahead first. If they score first, it would be very difficult to go and score. I just don't know, especially with the long injury list we have. I don't know. Now we have difference makers. We have Cristiano Ronaldo that essentially just negates all these predictions, right? You can talk all you want about the injury list and Juric's tactics. And then Cristiano Ronaldo just comes and flies over everyone's head and scores. But short of that, and you have seen, especially the second half of January and the entire month of February, Cristiano has been very inconsistent. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but he has been underperforming. As in Porto's game, I think he actually was our worst player. Despite the fact that Bentancur did that, I still think he was expected. He's Mr. Champions League. He was expected to produce, and he didn't. Now, same can happen tomorrow with Verona. I don't see a reason that you would have an easy game against them.
Well, 1-1 you say.
But I would gladly take being wrong and Fagioli coming in and scoring the winner.
I don't know.
What do you think?
Well, I don't know. Probably, since we have a bunch of people out with injury. That's the issue, and the fact that we're still not sure what's going to happen. I think Morata is even out, so he's not playing. So we have Kulusevski again with Cristiano.
Yeah.
So 1-1. Okay, I'll bite. I'll bite, Daniel. I'll go with 1-1 as well. Just because we have so many injuries, and this is Verona.
Yeah. It's somewhat similar to Davide Ballardini's Genoa. Ballardini also is one of those coaches that you'd expect to kind of these are teams that live for these moments to just go and kind of urinate on all our hopes and dreams of the bigger teams because they understand how important these games are, and they try to have a game plan for it. And I think the games going forward, I think of the games that people normally think that it's going to be an easy 3 points, Verona is definitely going to be a difficult game. Genoa, I think, is going to be a difficult game. Sassuolo is in crisis. I don't think they're going to pose a big. Now you don't know what happens in 2 months' time, but these are teams that I would be very careful being optimistic about.
And also, of course, we have the game against Spezia coming up on Tuesday, I believe, and the rumors are that Cristiano will be rested. So. Yeah, then who's left to score the goals for us if not Cristiano?
Now, I mean, maybe Kulusevski just decides to perform again.
Well, maybe yes.
He just magically said. I was very much on the hype wagon for Kulusevski. I was always thinking that he's going to explode this year, but I think he is just being really asked to do things that he's not equipped to do, and he's actually taken it really well. I don't know if you remember, but in the second game of the three, the first leg of the semifinal of the Copa, he essentially neutralized Brozovic at the expense of not contributing at all to the attack.
That's the issue.
Yeah. Or when he plays as the support striker, which is not really his role, to try to create for Cristiano Ronaldo. He's really doing a lot. Don't get me wrong, but I was expecting him to be a name that everyone across Europe was talking about right now.
Well, he's only 20.
He's only 20. Yeah, I agree. And he came from Parma. He came from a team that was fighting for staying up. To a team that, as Pirlo likes to put it, is in contention for all trophies.
Well, it would be disrespectful if he says anything otherwise. Of course, he's gonna say we're on the run for all three. Of course,
yeah. No, I understand. I think I actually liked. This is one of the things that I didn't like about Sarri, that he had no tact to his. Conferences. Like it was just so painful to watch. Whereas with Allegri, he was so political and he was just a very experienced soothsayer, and he would like crack jokes and keep everyone entertained. In that respect, I understand, and I respect Pirlo's decision to say these things, but I just don't think these are realistic goals, given that you have an Inter who has been playing together pretty much for the past season and a half. They were playing one game every 7 days, and they are 10 points now, 10 points ahead of us with 14 games to go.
Yeah, we have one lesser game.
Yeah, but that's against Napoli, so
yeah.
you never know.
Yeah. Yeah, you never know. Yes, but they also, well, I don't want to say they are in crisis, but for sure, this is not the Napoli what we should fear. But I mean, we could win.
Well, the conspiracy theory would say that Pirlo did a big favor to his long-term friend and saved his job a couple of weeks ago. And maybe come mid-March, when we're supposed to play them, I think it's March 17th now that Napoli is out of Europe. Maybe he would return the favor. Who knows?
Yeah, well, who knows? Yes, indeed. All right, guys. Thank you so much to everyone who joined in on this stream. It was great fun with Daniel. Great,
It was a pleasure.
great stuff from you. It's always nice to hear some insight on the things that we don't know so much about. And of course, this is the Arthur's injury and Dybala's injury. What is the status there? It's guys, if you just joined on this one, you can rewatch the whole thing. The first part is, of course, with Mason from Juve Academy Boston, and the second one is with my friend Daniel over here. I wish you luck with everything that you do, Daniel.
Thank you.
And me and Daniel, we go way back, but we only just met just now. But we connected way back when the Juve started showing the Juve women.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember back in the day, and we were trying to find out where to watch these ladies. And finally, Juventus TV is working on it right now, so it's cool.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so you can follow Daniel on Twitter.
Yeah.
Not many Juve takes there, very rarely. But once he starts providing some medical insights, I'm just blocking it out because it's just I don't understand the word of the thing he says. It's lovely.
Yeah, I don't keep separate profiles for professional and hobbies. That's my downfall.
Oh, well, there we go. But it's great fun. It's great fun, Daniel. Thank you so much to all of you joining. Subscribe on this channel, of course, and like this very video. We'll see you tomorrow for the pre-match build-up, of course, for the Verona game. Daniel says 1-1. I'll bite. I'll say 1-1 as well. So we'll see if I change my mind tomorrow morning. But of course, watch along and after the game for full-time reactions. Yes, fino alla fine, my friends, and forza.
Thanks for having me. Fino alla fine.
No problem.